you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking at you, give me funny, lad.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
Thank you, Keith, and welcome to another edition of The Collection. My name is Brad Gilmore, as they said in the intro. Thanks for checking out the show. Hopefully you liked all of our interviews that we've dropped so far over the past weeks. If you have, go over to the Apple Store or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave us a little rating review. It helps with the algorithm. You all know that by now. Today on the show, we have a really fun guest. I'm actually excited to talk to him, as I am all the time. But this guy, Joel Thurm. Joel is one of the most legendary casting directors in the history of Hollywood. He's got a brand new book out called Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, Confessions of a Casting Director. And Joel's been around forever. I'm going to read this from the synopsis of the book. One of Hollywood's most admired and accomplished casting directors, Thurm played a key role in many of the most pivotal casting decisions in television history. This book is a must-have for pop culture lovers who spent their childhoods watching classic television shows like Cheers, Taxi, Golden Girls, and Miami Vice, and anyone who binges these shows now. As an added bonus, Joel has great stories about the movies Grease, Airplane, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season takes us on the wild ride of his career from working in the theater with legends like Pearl Bailey, Judy Garland, and Ethel Merman, along with Gloria Swanson, to being a part of the wise and sometimes unwise early casting decisions involving Jason Bateman, Tom Cruise, Ted Danson, Farrah Fawcett, Johnson Regina King, Madonna, Joaquin and River Phoenix, and Susan Sarandon, just to name a few. On the way, we learn how the quote-unquote sausage is made on shows that also include The A-Team, The Bob Newhart Show, Charlie's Angels, Family, The Facts of Life, Family Ties, Fantasy Island, Knight Rider, LA Law, The Love Boat, The Rookies, Starsky and Hutch, and more. Because he was the head of talent at NBC, Joel Thurm also provides interesting insights about Seinfeld and the Golden Girls. And Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season brings us back to the not-so-distant era when his suggestion to cast Pearl Bailey and Phil Rivers on a routine Love Boat segment. Okay, interesting. So there you use the synopsis for the book. We talked to Joel Thurm about what a casting director does, how pivotal his role has been over the years. There you go. And just a lot more, man. And he actually discovered a particular talent who went on to worldwide notoriety and even Super Bowl commercial fame. Who could that be? We're going to talk about it right now with legendary casting director Joel Thurm here on The Collection. And he joins us right now here live on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. We are talking about the brand new book, Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, Confessions of a Casting Director. The legendary Hollywood casting director Joel Thurm joins us right now on the line. Joel, how are we doing this morning?
How am I doing? Well, I'm not awake enough to find out, but I'll let you know as it happens.
As the day progresses, I'll check back in with you on your status. Hey, look.
No. I think going to kick in about 30 seconds. So
Okay,
I'll
good.
keep going.
Good. Well, congratulations on the new book, Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, Confessions of a Casting Director. Talk to me about the book. Why was this the right time to go ahead and put this out?
Well, I figured if you're working on it for 15 years, you might as well get it out. But seriously, there's been I think there's a little resurgence of 70s and 80s nostalgia, just like there was a few years ago for 50s and 60s. So I guess this was the right time. Joaquin Phoenix suggested that I write this book 15 years ago. 15 years ago, and I literally went home and started writing. It was once you start, you sort of don't stop. But then over the next 15 years, I would stop and I would start, and then COVID allowed me to finish it.
Yeah, your career as a casting director, I mean, when you read the book and you read kind of some of the inserts and excerpts from it, it's incredible how many shows or movies that you had a hand in creating them, right? And creating what we know about them from some of the characters, the actors who were cast to play these characters. For people who don't know exactly, you can give me kind of the Cliff Notes version of what a casting director actually does.
Oh, my God. Well, there is no quick version of believe me, I will try. A casting director reads the script and gets ideas. And then you communicate these ideas to the people who are paying you. Because those are the people who actually make the decisions. My job is to suggest, cajole, twist arms, be a little sneaky if I have to, but to keep them from shooting themselves in their feet. It's sometimes when you meet with people right away, you suggest someone and they say, "Oh, great, let's make them an offer," and that person accepts the offer. Well, good, one down. But very often that person doesn't take the offer, and you have to go searching. By searching, I mean you set up auditions, you meet people if you don't know enough people in that category. I don't know if I'm very clear about that, but in the I wish I had the book open because I did a whole thing of in the introduction of most people don't know what casting is. So I went through a whole casting 101A, 101B, and so on. But I don't think you have time for that this morning. But did I answer the question?
No, you did phenomenally. I mean, and the thing is too, the casting director is such a critical step in the process for a television. For movies and television, but I almost think for a television show, man, do you have to get it right because you're looking at, let's take Taxi or Taxi or Cheers, two shows that you worked on, championing people like Danny DeVito or Ted Danson. I mean, you really have to get the casting decision right because especially a network sitcom back in the day, we're trying to make this thing last 6 to 10 seasons. And if you don't get the casting right, there's no way it's going to go that long.
Well, also the thing in television usually works much, much faster than casting for movies. I mean, let's say take Starsky and Hutch, which I cast. There's there are new guest casts coming in every week, and I've got to tell you, you have sometimes a day or two to cast a major lead guest role. Who's going to drive that show? So film works much faster. Television works much faster. But I will tell you one thing about speed when it comes to casting. The less time you have to sit around and dick around and second guess yourselves, the better. And that happened on Taxi a lot, where just people would not make up their minds. Well, I don't know. Yeah, she's really good, but. And I said, but what? And then finally, in the case of Mary Lou Henner, I just lied. I said, if we don't set Mary Lou Henner today, we're going to lose her to another show. And then they had to make a decision. But I think it's okay to do that.
No, I mean you got to twist the arms, especially when it's somebody you believe in, like a Mary Lou Henner, or even going back to the thing of Danny DeVito. Like you champion Danny DeVito for the role of Louis in Taxi. And do I have this right that Jack Nicholson was working against you for this?
Well, and I wouldn't say against me. The only thing Jack Nicholson did is he scared the hell out of me one day because I was driving too slow and driving in back of me in his enormous sedan that has instead of a horn, it has one of those big rig horns. So that's the only thing Jack Nicholson ever did to me. Danny was in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Nicholson was in that. But he was advising Danny not necessarily not to do Taxi, but not to do any television because that would ruin his career. He'd never have a career if he did television. Well, obviously he was wrong. But the thing about Danny, which I think is the funniest part of his casting, the producers told me when you discuss everything at first with the writers and director and so on. And what they literally told me is, don't spend too much time. Don't worry about the character of Louis. All we need is a funny-looking guy. He's never going to have more than one or two lines a show. That's what I was told. And that was my first day of casting on the show, and I brought in two people. One as a shill, because you can never bring in just one person. You have to bring in two. And he came in first, and I brought Danny in. And you may know this story because it's been told a bit. But Danny got the part. He walked in the character of Louis, just sloppily dressed. He had the script in his hand, and he threw it on their desk and said, "Who wrote this crap?" He didn't say crap, but I don't know what kind of a show I'm on, so I'll use crap. He said, "Who wrote this crap?" and threw it on the table. And he got the part. From that moment on, everything he said got a laugh in the room. But remember, this is the one that said, "Don't worry, he's never going to have more than two lines."
Right. Well, I have to ask, just because we're talking about Taxi, did you have anything to do with the casting of Andy Kaufman?
Andy Kaufman, I'm not really, because he was. They knew they wanted him from the beginning,
right?
So I didn't have. What I had to do was help deal with negotiations, because it wasn't only casting Andy Kaufman. We had to cast his alter ego, Tony. I forgot his
Tony
last,
Clifton.
Tony Clifton.
Yeah.
He had two contracts. Andy had a contract for himself, and there was a contract for Tony Clifton. And if we fired Tony Clifton for whatever reason, Andy's contract was null and void. So it was bizarre. But no, they wrote that part for him specifically. I'd love to take credit for it, but I can't.
The book, again, is called Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, Confessions of a Casting Director. One of the talents that you spotted out and put him on really and kind of made his career, you even kind of gave a quote for the book, with John Travolta. What was it about John when he walked in the room, or when you saw an audition from him, that made you go, wow, this guy can be a major star?
Well, it wasn't an audition. I met John when he was 17. He had moved out of his family house in Jersey and moved into Manhattan because he wanted to act. And with all permission of his parents, it wasn't, "I have to get out of my house, I hate it here." And he started working right away doing theater. But when someone walks into your office that they have that little bit extra that other people don't have. I can't explain it. But the first thing that was nice was, even though his name ends in a vowel and he came from Jersey, he wouldn't have been hired for The Sopranos. He wasn't like that at all. He was a sweet, cultured, serious actor who was raised in that kind of a milieu. His mother was a dance teacher and an acting teacher, and he absorbed all of that. But he started working right away. Well, first of all, you look at him. He was absolutely gorgeous and handsome. And then he had that little chin dimple and those eyes, and well-spoken and polite. So you knew something was going to happen with him. And he did start working right away. So that's the proof of that.
Incredible. But also, like you said, you have to go and, I don't know, sometimes argue with the people who pay the checks, as you said earlier, or the producers, or even the heads of the network, like a Brandon Tartikoff, who was so against B. Arthur being in The Golden Girls, which obviously she makes it, and Susan Harris wanted her. You wanted her. How did you convince Tartikoff?
Well, I did not know that Susan Harris wrote that part for B. Arthur, and only for B. Arthur. Only. If I'd known that, the following story I'm going to tell wouldn't have happened. But Brandon said, "Is there anybody else who can play that part?" I said, "Well, yeah, there's this woman you won't know. Her name is Elaine Stritch. She can do the same thing that Bea does. She could wither you with a look." And I flew her. Brandon said, "Well, fly her out and let's have her read." So I'd been in touch with Stritch for a while because I did want her on the air at some point. And she came out. I'll skip the part where she freshened up in the bathroom with a nip or two of vodka. That's a whole other story. But she walked into the reading, and the room was the temperature. I don't know. It was as ice cold as you could possibly imagine. And she read, and she didn't read okay. And then when an actor does it again, and it's comedy, they start to push, and the more you push, the worse it gets. And it was a disaster. So she asked if she could change a line, and she was told only the punctuation. So that makes an actor really feel good. The upshot was, after that, there was like a come to Jesus meeting. And that's when I learned that Susan wrote the part only for B, and there was no reason not to cast her. Brandon Tartikoff, television people used to go by numbers, the Q scores. In the Q scores done by Nielsen, 98% of the people in the country knew who B. Arthur was, but only 10 or 15% liked her. So that's it. In other words, that if those numbers were reversed, that's a good sign. But when everybody knows you and very few people like you, that's bad. But Susan pointed out something to Brandon that changed it. She said, "This is not the B. Arthur show. This is an ensemble of 4 women. It's not the B. Arthur show." And so let's say that people don't like B. Well, they love Betty White, so they cancel each other out in a sense. And that's when Brandon finally said, okay, fine. And well, you know the rest. That show has become the I Love Lucy of this day and age. All over the world, it's loved by little kids, middle kids. You know, it's loved by absolutely everybody. And that show's going to be around for, I don't know, you and I are going to be all gone, and it's going to still be playing somewhere.
I agree with you, Joel. Well, Joel, the name of the book is Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season Confessions of a Casting Director. Joel Thurm joins us. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll have to do it again sometime. I have so many more questions, but I know you got a lot on your plate. Thank you so much for joining us, Joel.
Well, you've got a lot on your plate too, but anytime you want me, I'm back. So thank you.
Sounds great. Joel Thurm, everyone.